welcome to Daggercast. Thank you for listening and or watching, however you're filling your ears or eyes with this. I'm Lindsay Charles, your host. Front woman, mother, human being, person. I am currently unwashed and in my work from home attire, and just, trying to press on through them holidays. Being closer to family, being in the Midwest and having a 3-year-old, the holidays are, parts of the holidays are not under my control. It seems. My kid is, really into pink, really into Paw Patrol, really into unicorns right now. Can't wait to get her into horror someday. Anyway, I don't know. The regular things is, this is a Daggercast, a podcast about cultural, racial representation in horror, different flavors of horror, how horror builds us, makes us, reveals us. And if you ever want to send me an email or drop me a line, please find us on all the socials. And you can always email us at daggercastinfo@gmail.com. This episode's pretty good. I think it really ties into the holidays, honestly. I have a wonderful conversation with Babes with Blades artistic director Hayley Rice. An amazing person. I'm very happy to know her and really happy she wanted to sit and talk to us. Her favorite flavor of horror, as you will see in the episode, is folk horror, which I feel like is very fitting for the holiday season. Everyone is celebrating the holidays. They're celebrating different kinds of holidays: Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all of the holidays. Also, within those, everyone is doing their own special traditions, their own special rituals. And even for a pretty devout atheist like myself, I have my own little things I like to do. My family is German. Some of it, I am biracial. Some of my family is German, so I really love an advent calendar. I have my own that I've built and made, and I put stuff in and make little drawings and stuff. I have other friends that, have their own weird traditions, and I feel like the foundation for folk horror in general is the lore and the traditions that we share among each other, that we talk about among each other. So it's kind of very fitting. So yeah, here's the episode. I don't really have anything else much to say other than have a great holiday. Whatever wicked traditions and rituals that you practice with your family, I hope they're all great and go off without a hitch and summon whatever beast you're looking to summon. And yeah, have a good one. Here's the episode. Hayley Rice, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Or being there at your home, but here with me.
Spiritually.
Virtually. Yeah, I very much appreciate it. I'm sorry, I was thinking of another one, but the next one that was coming out was sexually, and I was like, no, that's not how she is.
I mean, we'll see where the evening takes us. I don't know.
Put a couple of these in me. What am I even drinking? I'm drinking like a cream soda with bourbon in it. Oh my gosh. It's Tuesday. So thank you so much for being here. I really I've been wanting to talk to you only because I see you so much at shows. And this is kind of just backstory for no one else but us, but we see you at every PRF barbecue, and there is so much to see and listen to. It is very loud. I never get to come over and be like, hello, how are you? Because there's just so much fucking going on all the time, and there's all those, just so many people to hug, that I don't know, but it is cool to see you at shows. But I also am like, man, she does so much other stuff. I want to talk and hang out. And I literally, when I suggested to Jared to contact you, I said, she's got to be into horror. I don't know. Like, I can only imagine.
You weren't wrong. You weren't wrong.
So I was just like, ask her if she wants to hang. But I'm glad at least I was keen on something. But you in your email back to us, you mentioned that you were very into, like, not really necessarily into all genres of horror, but that folk horror really spoke out to you. And I guess I just wanted to kind of know, like, why. And a lot of, like, one of my favorite first questions is always, what drew you to horror originally? Like, so I would like to know that.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird like journey because like I know it's like weird to call a 6-year-old like chicken shit, but like I was like scared of everything as a kid, like everything. Like I was really like sensitive and like little things. Like there was an episode of like Night Court that like gave me nightmares. Like
Whoa.
a bull got his hand stuck on his head with super glue at the end. He tore him off, and then he came out with these weird long hands. And I was like, no, it's like body horror, but I didn't know what that was. I was just like, his hands are wrong. So my local video store had, a bunch of like cardboard stand-ups of different movies, and one of them was of Freddy Krueger because I am, of an age. And I was like 4 or 5, and I saw it. I didn't know anything about these movies. I just saw the face, and I freaked out. And I had nightmares about him for a decade until, and this is, well, it's a horror movie podcast. Why am I worried about being graphic? I murdered him and skinned him in my sleep one night, and I never had a nightmare again.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
then,
Yes,
yeah.
keep going.
Well, and then a few years later, I finally watched one of the like Nightmare on Elm Street movies, which is when I discovered it comes to you in your dreams. So that's when I knew that horror movies were not as scary as I had built them up in my head, and that they also were fun and campy, and I liked the big personalities you got in them and the ridiculous artistic choices you can make in a horror movie that apparently in any other genre it's like that's too much, and in horror movies it's like yes, that's okay. You have permission.
Yeah, oh my gosh, oh wow, this is
There's
crazy.
a lot there.
That's so cool though, because yeah, it's like almost like you had no idea who Freddy Krueger was until you realize. That's so, and it's so funny because we always talk kind of about how Freddy Krueger is never going to get a resurgence. Like he's never going to get like a reboot because everyone is like, my dreams suck. Everything is bad anyway. Like Freddy Krueger can't do anything in my dreams that isn't already happening around me. Like this just, things just suck.
What are you going to do? Destroy the economy?
Yeah, exactly. Like what? Like that's it. It's also kind of, oh man, I also liked the fact that you skinned him. This is crazy because that's like what they tell you to do. Like if you have like 10 years of bad dreams about something specific, like any lucid dreamer will tell you, like, go back and, be more conscious of you being in a dream, and then try to continue, like, try to do something back to them. So that's like wild that you kind of like already did it and then the dream stopped. Did somebody tell you to do that, or did you just kind of do it in your dream and you were like, he's gone?
It is the coolest intuitive thing I've ever done in my life, waking or sleeping.
That is awesome. Holy shit. Yeah, that's like literally like I've like listened to so many podcasts about like, going back into your dream and like, confronting whatever is attacking you if it's a constant thing. That's hilarious. For 10 years.
10 years.
Damn. Yeah, it's just so funny because it's like he's such a punchline now. Like that's so funny.
And again, you see it, and especially the later ones, he's so like goofy because they let Robert Englund get so much like personality in there and run with it that,
his doofy puns, like, yeah.
And
And
like
even
my parents used to try to calm me down because they were like, my parents were also in theater. Like I come from like a theater family. They're like, honey, he's an actor. You know actors. We know people who have met him. We hear he's a lovely man, which I found out they weren't making that up. He actually
yes.
is. Yeah, he's lovely. But I couldn't, even though I knew I didn't like.
Interesting. Wow. So then kind of what drew you then to like folk horror? Because I mean technically you could consider, I mean, I don't know, to me like folklore in general is kind of like a broad thing. So it's like sure, like an old story about an old guy that haunts your dreams is kind of a, it's like nothing we can control. Like to me that's kind of what folk horror is. It's like just these old rules
Mm-hmm.
that exist, and it's like the people who just choose to not believe them or not follow them get caught in them.
Yeah.
So I guess like I don't know, I think that someone on the internet could make a case. I don't want to do it. To have Freddie be like because there was a song they had a song about him. So it's
Yeah.
like that's, I mean that's already folklore right there. So yeah.
Well, it's
So,
like, and where is it folklore, and what's the difference between like folklore and urban legend? You know, it's like
exactly.
in the suburbs, and is one like older than that? And when does it get old enough to become, instead of an urban legend, folklore?
Yeah, or like, the thing that happened to Freddie, like, did that happen because of Indian burial grounds, like under the school? Like, it could have been that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Stephen King would have said it's possible.
Well, I mean, like you make a good point, because like a lot of the like folk horror movies are like fear of what's underneath the surface of a civilized society, or right
Mhm.
outside the corner of a civilized society, you know? And
Yeah,
so like
absolutely. And
Predator,
he
yeah.
was created basically by like a bunch of people murdering him, right?
Mhm.
Because he was killing kids and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Killing or molesting. They're always very vague about like
yeah.
what Freddy did, and it changes from movie to movie. It's
Yeah. Um,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, again, yeah. To me, that's a very loose. That's a loose translation. If
Yeah.
we're, somebody would be like, I don't know about that. So, like, what kind of drew you to like the? Because I mean, you brought up what's possibly the best folk horror movie ever, which is Wicker Man. The old one, not the Neil LaBute.
Oh, fuck that dude.
Dude,
Oh
fuck
god.
that dude. And also when you said fuck Neil LaBute, I was like, no, he didn't. Oh my god, he directed and wrote it.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
was like, no wonder like Nick Cage was just punching women in the face. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. He's always really subtle about his opinion on women as human beings. It's real
right?
under the surface, but I think if you look close.
I can just picture like we quote Wicker Man Nick Cage all the time. Like whenever like how did it get burned? How did it get burned? How did it, like when he's just like yelling at a woman like how did it get burned? Like over and over. And then there's like, yeah, when he's like, killing me's not gonna fix your goddamn honey. And he's just like screaming about the bees. Like, it is so masculine. And to me, like, Wicker Man, the old Wicker Man is so feminine and like subtle and emotional. And I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, please tell me.
Oh yeah. Well, like I was raised acidly Catholic.
Oh,
Yeah, like so there's partially that. So there's like a familiarity with very old kind of ritual stuff, but then also like, God, how do I put this in a way that isn't cliched? I was kind of raised Catholic, and then like I was like a middle schooler in the '90s, so then I saw The Craft, so then I became
ooh,
like a Wiccan for a month. Like not, and that's not flippant to anybody who is observant. That's just my journey of like being a goth kid in the '90s. I feel like
yeah.
that's a very common story.
Well, I
Um,
mean, and that's the thing. It's like if you're young and you don't really kind of know like
yeah,
what's out there, I think putting on, and again, I think horror is perfect for this, but it's just like putting on a because it's a horror movie, so you're kind of like putting on a costume and trying something else out. And to me, yeah, that was, I mean, yeah, The Craft was definitely like my awakening of like, oh, like there are other things out there and things could be dangerous. And also they're all so hot. Like they all look so good. I've never
yeah,
wanted to wear a pleated skirt in my life, but now That's all I want to do. It was like Clueless didn't do it for me, but this did.
Yes, those were the knee socks I wanted, not those knee socks. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, those I was a kid who was really into mythology growing up. Like I
Mm,
love like reading about that kind of thing. And then also I was a Girl Scout. Like and I went to a Girl Scout camp up in the deep dark woods of Wisconsin a bunch of years.
wow.
Like all of that kind of combined into this.
You can see no, and that's like to me, that's like a perfect map. It's like I can follow that map.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. And it's like I think what I like about folk horror in general is I mean I would currently consider myself just like a massive atheist. So like I don't believe in anything other than what I'm looking at or other than what I know will happen, which is just like we die. It's cool. But when someone is like the movie Frailty, not a folk horror movie, I don't think.
No. Yeah, but it has that like weird energy of like isolation.
Mm-hmm.
So
We're
I'm
in the
trying to
woods. We
yeah.
got to be back in nature because that's the only way I guess that God can speak to you.
Mhm.
Trying to
Without the noise of the city. Yeah. Yeah.
sure. It's very interesting, but like movies like that scare the shit out of me because it's like, but what if you're wrong about all of it? What if this thing is correct? Like
Mhm.
Hereditary scared the shit out of me. Like when she goes into the bathroom and starts reading the words that the lady is like telling her to read so that she can like see her daughter again. Like I was immediately just like, man, if this works, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind. And at the end, it was like Ari Aster didn't want anything left to like anything left to just your imagination. It was like, oh no, 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 it worked. And this is how they did it. This is exactly how it was. It like they mapped the whole process out to you, and it's terrifying. And it works. Like
And I
literally,
like oh sorry, I'm
it
terrible
was
today.
fine.
No.
It was like I just like a demon comes into a person, and that was the end goal, and it happened. Like whenever movies do that to me, I'm very like it's almost like I can. People always say like, "Oh, it's the atheism leaving the body." That's like the meme where it's like, "Oh, somebody freaking out on a plane, the atheism is leaving their body," and I'm like, "Oh, geez," like as if it's like a tapeworm or a or or an illness or something, which I just hate. But like, it's true. Like, whenever somebody fucks with like that kind of like, oh hey, but what if it's not this? What if these holy rollers are correct? What if these demon worshippers are correct? Like, what if the people who are worshiping the land to make sure that to make sure their crops work, like what if they're right? Like it's just it's really cool. Like I don't know, whenever something imaginary comes real, like to me that is very scary to like a person who's just kind of like, nah, I'm not very spiritual, or nah, I'm not, or someone who is horrible and mean and terrible. Um like I'm thinking of there was a Guatemalan movie called La Llorona, that one about the crying lady. There was
Mhm.
like three movies, but the Guatemalan one had it perfect, and it is amazing how it basically was just like this, high ranking Guatemalan family, very rich. A servant comes to their house, and she is like the spirit of La Llorona, and like destroys his family. And it's like everyone thinks that's not a real thing, but what if it is? What if it is, and what if it comes for you? Like like it was. And they made it very like, I don't know, for me like folk horror needs to be not subtle, or it's like, I don't know, it needs to be not subtle so that you're like looking at it and you're like, holy shit, it's real.
Yeah, I think I think I'm kind of tired of like, is it real? What do you think, audience stuff? Like, I can work, but I feel like 9 times out of 10, you can tell if the director hasn't made a decision in
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of movies, and it's a cop out. It does
Yeah.
work sometimes, you
Like
know.
even like someone as brilliant as fucking Christopher Nolan at the end of Inception. Like that made me so mad. I was like, really? You're not going to tell me whether this is a dream or not? You've literally been playing with me this whole time and you're just going to leave it open-ended. And he's like, yeah. And it's just like, shut up, dude. Like,
He didn't know. He didn't know.
yeah.
He didn't make a decision, and he left it on your plate because he didn't feel like it. Because he
Yeah.
got.
And yeah, sometimes his endings aren't all that great. I mean, The Prestige was great because it was like you knew the ending. It was right there. You're just like, oh
Mhm.
shit.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I think and maybe like yeah, if you're like an art, if you're like a high, I don't know, a high grossing director, maybe you have a little bit more leeway than in horror. But I feel like, yeah, whenever horror starts to get like cerebral or like too thinky, then I'm just like, nah.
I think like sometimes what happens in those like really like what they call like high end or like what are like prestige horror or whatever,
Hmm.
it feels like it's apologetic. Like they're embarrassed that they're a horror movie. And I'm like, you have nothing to apologize for. And the big choices are why I like horror. You know,
Absolutely.
like I don't, I've seen subtlety. Subtlety's nice and fun and lovely, but that's not what I enjoy in this genre or a lot of genres, honestly. Like, because I feel like half the time it's not subtlety, it's apologetic. They're embarrassed about this thing that they want to make, but they think it's too much, so they're pulling back to make it
Yeah.
respectful.
Or they're thinking like, is this too ham-fisted? And sometimes it's like it's a horror. Like
Yeah.
let it be definitive. Let it, just let it be. Like even like I loved The Witch, like Robert Eggers' The Witch. That didn't leave anything to mystery.
Yeah.
It left mysterious aspects. Like you didn't really get to see the witch
Hmm.
much because, it was a witch. It was supposed to be like this other thing that like, you were seeing the family a lot, but then you only kind of sort of saw bits of the witch, like when she was old, when she was young, like super
Yeah.
like really interesting. And then even the women at the fire at the end were very like just bodies.
Hmm.
Um and that was amazing. I don't know, it's like aspects of it can be mysterious, obviously, but like we don't
Yeah.
yeah, I want to know like sometimes I want to know what's happening at the end. Oh yeah. Oh, so what I went through a lot of folk horror lists and I saw a couple movies that were there all the time and some that really surprised me. Like obviously you had The Wicker Man was always usually number one, and if it wasn't number one, that was I was like, I don't know about you list. Um,
Hmm.
some people included Hereditary, which I thought was very interesting. Because I don't necessarily consider it like folk horror. It's more of like a family ghosty thing, or not even ghosty thing, but like a demon thing.
And it feels steeped in Christian like lore and like Christian versions of like demonology
Sure.
that I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like for folk horror, it's got to be outside of that like you know that Western Christian definition of like good and like not good and evil. Well, maybe good and evil, but also like
Yeah.
what the bad guy is has to, I think, kind of exist outside. Like with the Wicker Man, they're dealing with like pagan stuff, and the bad guy might not even be a bad guy. It's just a differing belief from outside of like what is normal in society, religiously or spiritually
Yeah.
or whatever.
And it's almost like he's a mark. It's like they pretty much picked him from the very beginning. And this so it kind of makes sense in a way because it's like in Hereditary this family was picked from the beginning. To me
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like it's like obviously like the demons that exist that they bring up or that they
Yeah.
use even in Wicker Man, like just the spirits they're using have always existed.
Yeah.
We have just man has found a way to make it work for them. And so it's like, to me, Hereditary was almost like, hey, we read this old book, but we're also old white people. And we got to find a way to make it work. High five. Like, let's get this lady's head off. Like, like it's just very like interesting to me, like how yeah it does seem kind of very like steeped in some kind of weird like ritual and tradition, which I guess is kind of folksy, but it is not wild. Like we're missing that like wild edge. But also what they brought up, which I thought was crazy, one of my favorite movies that I don't even know if I consider it horror, Eve's Bayou.
I buy that
Yeah.
because there's something out, like it's in the nature that they access through.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, like
she knows what's going to happen. They have visions. And so
yeah.
it's kind of like, there is a lot of like connection to like the setting was so important.
Hmm.
So it was very like, it wasn't a forest, and it wasn't like Finland or whatever, but it was like, it was so like the bayou and the environment was so important um for that entire movie. Apparently it's one of the most successful independent movies ever, which I think is
Oh,
crazy. I didn't know it was an independent movie, but like, I mean, it was in the 90s, but I remember that movie like rocking my world. Like I was scared. Um, and of course there was like a lot of family drama, which there always will be, but I really appreciated like the supernaturalness of it. Um, Definitely like, yeah, I thought for the fact that that was like on most people's folk horror lists really like blew my mind, and it really like was like, hey, don't forget this one. And I'm like, what? Ah. Um, what I mentioned, La Llorona is there. Men.
yeah, that I haven't seen that yet, but I saw the trailer. I was like, this, yeah, yeah, this looks like somebody who watched like The Wicker Man and was like, well, what can I do about a creepy town?
Also, it's a guy, I forget the director's name, but it's a guy, and his stuff is always really mind bendy weird. And,
Hmm.
and I would be interested to see what you think at the end. If you think like, what the fuck? Or if you're like, oh yeah, like it's all happening.
I
Because
haven't
yeah.
gotten spoiled on it, but I do know that the reactions I've seen from people who have seen it have been like, "Oh fuck you," or "Oh that was great." Like, and there's been no in between.
Yeah,
Um,
it is exactly like I feel like I was in the middle. I feel like I immediately was like on my phone being like, what are you trying to say here, bro? Like, which already is to me like a bad sign. Um, but I thought it was, again, it is very like, you don't know what entity is here, but you know that it is in the earth. Like, you know that it is where they are. Like, and has something to do with what's around them. I don't know. Very interesting. Um, and then what else? Oh yeah, the lighthouse was on there, which is for me, like Robert Eggers. Is that Eggers? That
Eggers,
guy, Eggers. I
Eggers.
should call him Eggers. He like for me, the witch left nothing on the table. I was very
Mhm.
satisfied. Whereas the lighthouse, I was like, dude, what? Like, what's happening. I think my favorite new thing lately is people have been using the lighthouse of him like going to the light, but they've changed the lighting to red and blue, and they've been like, when I finally get into that Walgreens room, like with the neon sign, it's just him like and I'm like, that's whoever thought of that like was in my brain. Like I've always been like, how do you get in that room where only the neon sign is and the window? Like,
My spouse and I watched that like a few months into the pandemic, which was either a great or a terrible idea. So I know we got something different out of it than everybody who saw it before the world shut down. And like we spent the next week like wandering around the house, like whispering, "You like my lobster, don't you?" Like it was like it felt infinitely applicable and quotable in that time and place.
I
Um,
think I've I think I've like under my breath said like, why'd you spill your beans? Like all the time. It is just so quotable. And it is like seeing two dudes like do a thing that I was honestly like, was Willem Dafoe like King Triton? Like I don't understand what was going on.
like that one I feel like, so that one, which is ambiguous, I would say throughout though, and like I feel like that was like, gosh, I do feel like Eggers did know and then just kind of gave a wash of the impression he had of this story inside. It was like, this is very like Kate Bush or like Tori Amos were like, they know what this song's about, but you'll never know. You'll never know, but they know. And you
And
know they know.
and that's great too. I get, like there are plenty of different things I watch. Like my favorite anime is Evangelion. I'll never fully understand that, but I don't care because
Yeah.
there's just too much going on. Whereas this, like, I almost think that Eggers like kind of watched Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson like act together and was like, I don't even care. Do your exactly. Just go have fun. Go do your thing. Like,
Go Defoe. Like, go do your
go
Like,
Defoe. It's so silly, but I'm like, it's probably true. He probably was like, nah, I'll add something at the end that makes it weird.
throw in some mermaid tits. I don't know. We'll go.
Sure. Beat the seagull up. Whatever. We'll figure it out. Another movie that I haven't seen either, but I'm sending it to you as a recommendation. Um, there's a movie, I think it's on Shudder. It's called The Wailing. It was on everyone's folk horror list. It's a South Korean film.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and I've seen the trailer and it looks good, but like I was kind of like, I don't know. But everyone is like, this is surprisingly good. And very like there is something in these rural areas that is going on. And so there's that. Have you seen A Dark Song?
No.
Okay, that one's also a really again, these are ones I haven't seen, but I've seen the trailer and I've been like, ooh. Um, from what I can see in the trailer, like a woman is basically like paying a guy to like perform a ritual to like be able to either see a lost one or something specific. And then they of course get caught in it. Like, oops, oops, we're caught in it and
Oops.
we're in this abandoned house. Oops, like so that was a good one. Also one that again, I feel like the 90s was rife with folk horror. The
Mhm.
Blair Witch Project.
That, yeah, but I almost feel like, I mean, like, there, but like, yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. I get so absorbed in the found footage aspect of it because it was like the first found footage, and everybody's up their butt about being the first found footage and whatever, and it made people like nauseous watching it. And
Mm-hmm.
no, that's all about people researching a story.
Yeah. And it's like, there's this Blair Witch and no one really has like everyone just kind of has snippets of the story,
Yeah,
but we don't really get all of it until we see these kids just get tormented in the
yeah.
woods. Also my husband watched Ryan watched or he played the game. He played like the Blair Witch game and it was absolutely terrifying. Like it was stupid terrifying. I was like, why is this so scary? I don't like that you're doing this. Like it was really fucking scary and very still like folk, like still very folk horror in the
Mhm.
sense where he was like basically like it was like somebody coming to these woods with their own demons, their own problems, and basically the woods having their way with him. Like and it was crazy the stuff that because it was a video game it was like, oh no, it was so dark that we were like, is what is that in the back? Oh shit, like it was very like so scary. um but still, like when I walk into like an old cabin, like we just were at a state park and I like immediately saw like a weird house and was like, Ryan, I'm already gonna ask you before you go in there, please don't put your nose in a corner, please, because I will fucking lose my mind. And that was the first thing he did. And I was like, God, like I just like I can't even do it. Like if somebody were in my basement with their nose in the corner, I would be like, I can't, I've shit myself. Like
Yeah.
can't go anywhere.
No, I was at the camp out event, the PRF camp out, and they got
Nice.
yurts there that are like concrete, and there's not even a corner because they're round. And I'm like, no, no, I don't like the vibe. There's like a random gravestone in the middle of the camp yard too. So
Oh my God. Yeah.
you know
No,
about
I
that?
like
Oh no. Okay.
I wanted to go.
Yeah.
I wanted to go so bad to the camp out, but I did not.
Yeah.
I think we just were it was like how it was like end of September. So I was very like
Yeah.
but Halloween, and also like I don't know. Then October was a shit show, and I really should have gone to like stave off the pain of what October has been. All right. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
but did you ever hear this theory about like maybe this is obvious 'cause I haven't seen it since the 90s, like that they go back in time?
What?
Yes. So I saw that. Oh God, I saw this on TikTok. Ugh. But
Yay.
yeah, but yeah, that basically the entire movie, they're not in the 90s. They're in whatever time the Blair Witch is around. That's why they're
Oh.
so lost because the topography is completely different, and that's why it's underneath the building. Is they got sucked through a time hole.
Oh shit. That's I mean again, like I don't even know if I like would it have been a better movie had I known that? I don't
No,
know. No. Like
no, I don't know. Maybe.
yeah, I don't know. I just know that like when I watched it with my mom in a theater, and that night she told me I had to sleep in her bed. It's like the first time she had asked me to do that. Like, I mean, I would ask to do that when I was a kid, but it was the first time she asked, and it was hilarious. She was like, I can't go to bed if I'm alone, I can't." And we did. Slept butt to butt. Like, because the bed was so small. I was like, we're touching butts. Sorry, my mom will never watch this. Also, there was a movie that was on all of the lists called Apostle that I also have not seen, but apparently they call it an action horror video game version of Wicker Man. It's from the guy who directed Raid and The Raid 2, which were like those fighting movies.
Oh.
Yeah, so apparently it's supposed to be really good, but I have put that on my list of things to look at. And then oh my god. Did Jared get 2 minutes? He gave me a 15 minutes too, but whatever. Um fun. Well, I think now is a perfect time to switch back to what you do. I am very like I am sad to say that I was not hip or aware of Babes with Blades when I was in Chicago for like, the time that I wasn't like I don't know, Basan with my own band and pregnant and having a kid or whatever, all that crap that happened. But you guys have been around since the 90s, which I think is crazy. But I really wanted to kind of shine a light on your theater company that you are the artistic director for. It is we've had Morgan on the show who will be directing one of the plays this year. Super pumped, but I wanted to just kind of, because I have it written on this little post-it note, your mission statement, and I'm just going to read it so that everyone is aware. Babes with Blades Theater Company uses stage combat to tell stories that elevate the voices of underrepresented communities, Jesus Christ, and dismantle the patriarchy. Through performance, script development, training, and outreach, our ensemble creates theater that explores the wide range of human experience and cultivates broader perspectives in the arts community and in society as a whole. That is such a great mission statement. A big old ask. But I think from what I have heard of the stuff you do and just looking at your past productions, you are killing it. And this seems really cool. So like tell me more about kind of the theater company, I guess how you got started in it and kind of what's coming up.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, Babes of Blade started in like 1997. Our founding artistic director, Dawn Sam Alden, who lives out in LA now, right? Wonderful woman. Basically had stage combat training, and no one ever asked her to use it in any shows, and she was pissed about it, and rightfully so. Sorry, they never asked her to use it except if she was going to be like assaulted in the show, you know. Uh, and so she created like basically a night of like vignettes for her and her other friends who had stage combat experience to use it. And it became a hit. And they did another version, and they took it to like the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and stuff. And like after doing like various incarnations of this, like, this series of scenes kind of production. They're like, what if we start a theater company? So they took a year, got everything together, which is so smart. As the person who became the artistic director later on, thank you. Became a non-for-profit, started producing full productions in 2004. I was friends with a lot of the company, Morgan Manassa, Kat Wolf, a lot of the members. And I had been like around them for years. And then in 2016, yeah, let's go with that, said, hey, I'd love to direct for you because I was studying to direct. I also act. I directed a production of Henry V for them because they do Shakespeare every other year, and it was originally all female. As you see from the mission statement, we have widened our mission statement. So yeah, I directed. They brought me on as an ensemble member, and then about a year or two after becoming an ensemble member, the current leadership was stepping back because it's a lot to run a micro-budgeted non-for-profit theater company storefront kind of thing.
in Chicago, no less, where there are, I mean, there is no end to the storefront theaters, you know, and
yeah, and there's, yeah. So I stepped in, and I just in time for the pandemic, but yeah, we're still going strong. But yeah, around 2018, yes, I became AD around 2018, and that was when we changed our mission statement.
Yeah, it's now more like widened to kind of like, you know, like BIPOC.
Yeah, because it's still, stage combat is still mostly cis white dudes. And that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, this is honestly why I started this podcast, because a lot of times we talk about just how cis white horror was and how it's really trying to not be. Same with like, I mean, Chicago storefront theaters have been in trouble for a while, for a long time, and this is very like refreshing. I do know that you guys did, I think you guys did like kind of like what like a showcasing spot on the Fly Honey show. Was that y'all?
No, that wasn't. But I know that was Almania.
Okay.
Yes, it was in that. Yes, we had talked about it, and we still have. We just never got it together. But God,
oh man,
we should. But yeah, like in 2008, I have to give credit because also it's tied into horror. But I directed Henry V, and they were still identifying as all female. Mm-hmm. I had just done a show with an actor who had just graduated college, named Theo Germain, who was in They/Them last year. The horror movie about the conversion camp.
Yeah, Theo's awesome. They're in so much.
So yeah, no, they're amazing. That was the least classy name drop you will ever hear from me, by the way. But they reached out to me and were like, hey, I'm not represented, but I want to be in Shakespeare and play the roles that nobody asked me to do. Would I be welcome there? And I wasn't even ensemble yet. And I was like, I don't know. And when I became AD, this conversation was already happening. And they were like, there's so many people outside of like, you know, of non-binary folks and, you know, trans men who also don't get these roles, you know, like half the time when people cast non-binary folks in like Shakespeare, they're asked to be like magical creatures and not human. And like, that's a weird message and stuff like that. So we realized the problem was wider than just women. And so we, you know, we're doing this thing till we become obsolete.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like sometimes I say like, I'm just going to talk about horror and representation and kind of like different, you know, just like the different genres that pull away from like whatever the norm of horror was, until people are like, why? What's the point? Everything is great. We're so blended. It's no problem. Like, yeah, and I honestly like it's very refreshing. Like, I mean, I moved to Chicago to act, and then I just kind of got roped into being in a band that played twice a month for 14 years. So it's like it was kind of funny. Like, I remember, and I talked about this on the pod before, that like there was a lot of times where I would be auditioning and I would realize that I was just kind of being considered as an other thing, where they would be like, oh, well, I didn't really picture a Black woman in this. And I'm like, to put a blonde wig on me, I swear I'll look white if that's what you need. Like, and it would just be so like frustrating. And also, maybe I also just didn't get parts because I wasn't good, but whatever. I kind of like did my thing and realized that I was like, nah, everybody's like looking for something specific. But when I read your stuff, like, not only are you like looking to make like bold choices in casting, like you're doing this next coming year, you're doing Midsummer Night's Dream. Very excited to see that. I'm sure that will be cast in a very different way than it is normally. But then also like you're doing new stuff and you're promoting new writers that will be writing for, and I love you had even like a thing where you're like, hey, if you're submitting a script, let us know what the races are. We are not going to assume that they are white. Which I was like, that's great. Like there were so many times where people would be writing and I would say, well, why couldn't we put a black person there? And they're like, oh no, that's not for that. And I would be like, but why? You didn't specify a race. Like, I don't.
Why is white the default?
Yeah, like why? Yeah, exactly. It was very weird. So I like that you're not only like keeping your eye on the development of scripts that aren't staying like pure white. Like I really appreciate that. Especially like, I mean, I went to IU, and these questions were being asked like in my playwright classes or in my, even like when things were being cast, like people weren't just saying like, oh hey, could anybody do this role? Like, why couldn't we put a girl there? Like, why not? There's no part that like really, or it's like it's an easy fix. I was just reading that the Soul Train Awards changed they changed
for Janelle Monáe. Yeah.
It was like what, Lady of Soul, like that was what it was called, but then they just changed it because they were like, well, we're gonna give it to Janelle Monáe, and they are not a woman or a man.
Nope.
And then they quoted the Prince song, like the I Will Die For You, where he's like, I'm not a woman, I'm not a man. I'm something that you will never understand. It's just like so like there it is. Any non-binary person, like that's the line right there. It's just like everybody just needs to give the program. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Soul Train could do it. And so when I saw that, I was like, this is what horror movies do. Horror movies can do this before high art movies or Oscar award-winning films can do. They can make these choices before these other people are like, but wait, what are the repercussions? Like the Oscars are so scared to do it, but Soul Train was like, fuck it. Like, and to me, that's what horror is. Like horror is like, fuck it. Like we're gonna respect people even though we're slashing them up. Like
at least you see in some ways, and obviously everything needs work, you can see this weird acceptance of things outside of the norm in horror movies, because it's almost free from expectations in some ways that they can get away. I saw a movie the other day, the ending kind of meh, but it had some great ideas. It was called Clear Cut. This falls under the folk horror. It's got Graham Greene, aka the Native American actor you saw in everything in the 90s. And it's his favorite movie he ever made, because it's about Native Americans reacting to Canadian loggers clear cutting their land. And Graham Greene shows up and says, let's take things into our own hands. And then you have to wonder if he's actually a man or a trickster spirit.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I watched it going like, this is literally a year after Dances with Wolves, which is so steeped in a lot of stereotypes. And then you have this, which plays with the stereotypes and is a lot more interesting to a native lived experience, I would say. Not speaking from my own experience, obviously, but it seems that's more interesting and complicated than what we got in these Oscar-winning prestige films in the same year.
Exactly. In the same year. It blows my mind. Yes, because Dances with Wolves won the Oscar in 1990. That was the 1990 move. And then after that was Silence of the Lambs. I know all the Oscar award-winning films, by in chronological order. I'm a
That's
bit of
impressive.
yeah, it's like the way I calm down. I literally was in labor, just going like 1950, all about Eve. Like I was literally just like just going like forever and until I like I memory palaced it. It's Evanston, Illinois. Downtown Evanston is where I walk and I go to all the Oscar award winning films. But if I get really like scared or it's like my meditation like trigger. Wish I could go into my dreams and skin Freddy Krueger, but I'm just
It's a
gonna
great trick, but I can only do it once apparently.
I can only do it. You could train yourself though. I feel like you're like uh you
Am
are
I a dream warrior?
she's a dream warrior. Dude, I'm crying. That was so good. Oh man. Well, Hayley, I so much appreciate it. I am very excited for the 2024 season of Babes with Blades. It is gonna kick so much ass. I'm going to promote forever and maybe buy a shirt because I saw they were on sale.
Excellent. Yeah. If people want to find more information, I gotta do the plug. Like babeswithblades.org, not .com. Different site. They're fine, just a different tenor of sort of thing than we.
Nice.
Yeah, we know about each other. They're cool. It's just cheesecake. It's adorable. But yes, babeswithblades.org. You'll find all the information about us. If you want to know about me, it's HayleyRice.com. You can see the other horror shows I kind of directed and like theater companies that are long gone. And yeah, and I don't know. I'm easy to track down.
You honestly are. Like it is, I feel like you're at all the cool places. I'm always like, there's Hayley. It's so easy to spot you. Like you are always dressed so wonderfully. I am so happy to know you. Next time I see you at a show, I will come to you. We're gonna hug. We're gonna party. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. And please, if I don't know, if something good comes out, or maybe we can even do our homework and watch all these folk horror movies and you can come back and we could talk about them.
I would love that.
Cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really had a good time.
And that was the episode. Thank you so much for being here, for listening. This has been such a great year. I'm sure we'll probably do some kind of better review in the future, but yeah, looking for more stuff. Any feedback you want to send our way, please do. I'm always wondering what anyone is thinking when we record these. So yeah, just let us know. You're great. Have a good one.